Effective Governance, Training of Trainers Training Series. Learning Objectives. In terms of the learning objectives, we will be defining corporate governance as we seek to understand the roles and responsibilities of the Board of Directors. We will be having conversations about what's a competent board, high-performance boards, and what is it that you do in your governance that makes you a high-performing board. Additionally, we will be seeking to understand internal controls, roles and responsibilities of management, critical monitoring activities such as audits, and then understanding the elements of an effective code of governance while learning the best practices for board oversight and management, and, lastly, using the RACI model for clarifying and defining roles and responsibilities in the program. Board as Leadership, Part 1, Session 1. Our main objective will be to understand what encompasses corporate governance and the strategic role played by the Board of Directors. The Governance Dilemma. We will start by understanding what is a governance dilemma, and we will do this by asking ourselves the following question: how can a group of peers be a responsible owner representative, exercising authority over activities they will never completely see, toward goals they cannot fully measure, through jobs and disciplines they will never master themselves? How can they fulfill their own accountability while not, at the same time, infringing unnecessarily on the creativity and prerogatives of management? To help us get around this governance dilemma, we are going to look at 3 models and approaches of governance in this training series. They include governance versus management, Carver's policy governance model, and governance as leadership. According to Carver, he insists that the primary responsibility of a board is to create the future, to define what the future is for the organization, and to say this is where we want to get to as an organization. Therefore, in this model, as indicated in this quadrant, we shall look at organizational ends, executive limitations, board/management delegation, and the governance process. To be more precise, Carver highlights the following as some of the most important roles of governance. 1. Creating the future, not reviewing the past. That is, governance or the board sets expectations in form of organizational ends, and the board members are the guardians of value. 2. Policy development is the chief occupation of the board, and not approvals, detailed planning, or operational planning. 3. According to this model, it says that the board only speaks to the CEO, who is the only employee to the board. 4. All authority and accountability is invested in the board as a group. In other words, boards only make decisions when they have a quorum, and they are within a session. 5. The board governs management and not managed by management. Additionally, the board controls what is inside the organization by staying outside. In other words, the board has its hands around the organization and not fingers into the organization. 6. The board is responsible for its own development, job design, discipline, and its own performance without any reference to the CEO. 7. The board defines ends, sets expectations, delegates, and monitors the management. In other words, the CEO can use whatever means provided they are within the values and the law of the land to achieve the set objectives. 8. The board acts as a body and speaks in one voice or not at all. This is commonly known as the one-voice principles. 9. To measure the CEO's performance, the board considers the actual results from agreed criteria and avoids subjectivity. Therefore, you need to have an agreed criteria for appraisal right from the start. Implications for governance. According to Carver, all authority and accountability is invested in the board as a group, and not any individual, either the chair acting as CEO or supervising. Each board needs clarity on how they hold the CEO accountable without micromanaging. Though the exact proportion depends on the stage of organizational growth, the board should primarily be concerned about the ends, while management's main role is the means. Agenda development for the board is an important stage for determining how much time is spent on compliance, strategic, and generative domains. Board as Leadership, Part 2, Session 2. Our main objective will be to have an overview of the board's purpose, role, and authority in corporate governance. Now, looking at the landscape of governance globally and locally, governance has been changing. The kind of governance we used to have in the 90s and the early 20s is quite different. We have moved from governance as merely conformance to talking about governance as also performance. But increasingly now, we are going beyond that and saying governance is what we refer to as concordance. In governance as leadership, we find what is commonly referred to as the governance triangle. According to this model, there are three typologies of governance. There is Type 1, which is the fiduciary level of governance, or Type 1 of governance. Then there is Type 2, where the board is a direction setter, and Type 3, which is the generative type. Type 1 mode, fiduciary. In this typology, the board conserves and optimizes tangible assets by oversight of audits, budgets, investments, and performance. This is done through the enactment of appropriate policies and practices. The board also ensures resources are used effectively in the service of the organization, promotes lawful and ethical behavior, and serves the interests of the organization, not self-interest. Type 2 mode, strategic. In this typology, the board is responsible for creating a strategic partnership with management in scanning internal and external environments, setting strategic priorities, and reviewing and monitoring performance. The board also seeks purpose, connection, impact, and to serve a socially valuable mission. It is a rare level for many organizations to get to for many boards, but that is where you must be seeking your board to operate at. This is also what is called the generative level. Deciding what decisions to choose, discerning challenges, opportunities, probing assumptions, logic, and values behind strategies. The members also provide new paradigms and emergent strategies from ongoing work and depend on a fusion of thinking rather than division of labor. The members also provide new paradigms and emergent strategies from ongoing work and depend on a fusion of thinking rather than division of labor. In the year 2006, Faure Gnassingbe, the president of Togo, noted that every 1 year of bad governance retards national development by 10 years. Now, according to NEP, a D corporate governance is defined as the system by which corporations are directed, controlled, and held to account. Corporate governance embraces issues of public policy, the overriding national values and ethics, and the national priorities and consensus under which the license to operate is granted to corporations. Corporate governance is the manner in which power is exercised in the management of economic and social resources for sustainable human development. Consequently, corporate governance seeks to promote leadership for efficiency and effectiveness, leadership that is open to probity, the quality of having strong moral principles, honesty, and decency, leadership with responsibility, leadership that is transparent and accountable, leadership with focused intelligence. Corporate governance has universal applicability because good governance is about ethical and effective leadership. Ethical and effective leadership is equal to good leadership. Good leadership is leading by example, talk the talk and walk the walk. Leaders, directors, and officers have the greatest impact on their organization's cultures. Role of the board and its organs. The board has both leadership and governance roles in the organization. In the leadership role, the board provides the strategic direction of the organization. In the governance role, the board ensures that good corporate governance practices are embedded in the management of the organization. The specific duties and responsibilities of board members are derived from the organization's statutes, constitutive documents, and common law. In carrying out their duties, each board member is expected to exercise the highest degree of care, skill, and diligence. Exercise independent judgment at all times. Understand and accept principles of collective responsibility. Act in the best interest of the organization and avoid conflict of interest. Promote teamwork within the board and the organization. Promote transparency and accountability at the board level. Owe their duty to the organization and not to the nominating or appointing authority. It is also important to note that the functions of the board should be guided by the board charter and the board work plan. According to Rosalynn Carter, former U.S. First Lady, a leader takes people where they want to go. A great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be. Some of the good governance models we have include Cadbury Code, the combined code on corporate governance, which was issued in 2003 by the Cadbury Committee. King 1, 2, and 3 by Prof. Mervyn King. King 4, the CMA Code of Corporate Governance Practices for Issuers of Securities to the Public 2015. The Mwongozo Code of Governance for State Corporations. Let us examine some of the good governance codes, starting with the CMA Code of Corporate Governance Practices for Issuers of Securities to the Public, 2015. The code succeeded the guidelines on corporate governance practices by public-listed companies in Kenya, 2002. The code sets out the principles and specific recommendations on structures and processes, which companies should adopt in making good corporate governance an integral part of their business dealings and culture. The CMA Code goes ahead to define corporate governance as the process and structure used to direct and manage the business and affairs of a company towards enhancing business prosperity and corporate accountability, with the ultimate objective of realizing long-term shareholder value, whilst taking account of the interests of other stakeholders. The second code we will examine is the King 4. It focuses on the 4 outcomes of good governance, that is, 1. Ethical culture and effective leadership. 2. Performance and value creation in a sustainable manner. 3. Adequate and effective controls. 4. Trust, good reputation and legitimacy. The King 4 also adopts 16 principles plus 1 and apply and explain model, therefore making it applicable to organizational governance and governing bodies rather than companies and boards. The third code is the Mwongozo Code of Governance. This code was issued on 26 April 2015 through the President's Executive Order No. 7 to provide a foundation for good corporate governance and to strengthen governance in boards. Its key objectives are to institutionalize good governance, efficiency, transparency, and accountability in state-owned entities. Therefore, the code should be adopted by all entities that ascribe to good governance principles. The code is structured to take account of provisions in the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, specifically Article 10 on national values and principles of governance, Article 73 on public trust, honor, and dignity of public offices, Article 232 on personal integrity, values and principles of public service, efficiency, effectiveness, and economic use of resources, and finally Chapter 6 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity. The Code is also structured to take account of provisions in the Public Officers and Ethics Act, 2003, OECD Guidelines on Corporate Governance of State Corporations, 2005, King III of South Africa, SCAC Guidelines, 2004, and various global best practice. Some of the benefits of applying the Mwongozo Code include strengthening transparency and accountability, thus reducing corruption, strengthening risk management, control, and governance processes, ensuring that investments in infrastructure, financial, commercial, and social services are done in a cost-efficient and effective manner, ensuring the entity recognizes and appropriately responds to the relevant needs of its key stakeholders. Board and Management Session 4. Our main objective will be to understand the difference between the board and management within an organization. First and foremost, we can see what is commonly referred to as the strategic plan and organization development in an organization. It is mostly concerned with the organization's policies, systems, and procedures that are in place, and then the skills and mindset among others. A brief overview of board and management roles states that the clearer a board can be concerning its role and its differentiation from the role of management, the better the likelihood for the success of the organization. Conventional wisdom also states that a board sets policy and staff or management implements it. Therefore, it is important to differentiate between the functions of governance and management in an organization. Governance is responsible for determining policy and strategy, while management develops policy and strategy. Governance appoints and oversees the chief executive, while management appoints managers and staff. Governance is responsible for monitoring performance, while management is responsible for measuring performance. Governance manages the governance process, while management supports the governance process. Governance also provides insight, wisdom, and judgment, while management implements board decisions. Lastly, governance ensures tangible assets are conserved and optimized, while management delivers services and conditions. This diagram elaborates the concept that the board is not only involved in governance, but also in operations. For instance, when an organization is formed, the board does 100% governance and 100% operations. That is how all organizations start at day zero. What happens as the organization grows and becomes more established? You begin to see that the involvement in operations is coming down. And the more it becomes established, the less the board is doing when it comes to operations. There's a sense in which, even at the most mature stage, the board still has a bit of operations that they're involved in, but largely the board's role is giving oversight, and the management's role is operations. This table shows the work of Professor Groiner, and he talks about phases of organizational growth. It says that we need to understand how the organization grows from the youngest level of the organization. At the start, the organization is going through the creativity of the founder, and at this stage, there is normally a high mortality rate for organizations. In fact, if they make it past 5 years, they are likely to survive since most find it very difficult to grow beyond the founder. Therefore, how you transition from the founder to the rest of management is important for the growth of the organization. There are three hats that board members wear or roles they fill: governance hat, participant hat, and volunteer hat. Governance carries legal responsibility and accountability, including determining mission, selecting CEO, ensuring effective planning, protecting assets, etc. This hat is worn only when in a properly called board or committee meeting with a quorum. The authority is corporate rather than individual, and the CEO is accountable only to governing policies and resolutions approved by the board. It is important to note that volunteers carry no legal authority. It starts when leaving the board or committee meeting. This hat is worn when advising the director one-on-one, or when helping or working directly with staff. For example, during a fundraising, when painting the office, when serving tea to visitors, emceeing a meeting, among others. The participant hat is also called the implementer hat. It carries limited authority and is seldom worn because it is staff who usually implement board policies. It is mostly worn when a board resolution gives a board member short-term authority to implement board action. The hat is removed when the task is done. Constituting a competent board. Session 5. In this session, we will delve into the following subtopics. 1. Constituting a competent board of directors. 2. Roles and responsibilities of governing board of directors. 3. Role of leaders in developing and actualizing the vision of the organization. 4. Leading and managing results. Why do we constitute a board? Institutional governance, donor requirement, compliance with legal requirements, registration compliance. There are various types of boards, and they include the following. Advisory boards. They help or support small institutions and are mostly led by the founder of the organization. They have no management role, but the directors have specific skills and henceforth act as trusted advisors to the CEO. Patron boards. They are the face of the organization and are mostly composed of wealthy and influential individuals who are committed to the mission and vision of the organization. The members also serve as figureheads for fundraising purposes, and they mostly play a philanthropic mission rather than a policy role. The next one is the management team model, where the board takes a management role and manages various board committees. They have a secretariat that works under the board. This type of board meets every month and is normally involved in the day-to-day management of the organization. Policy boards. They have a clearly structured model, that is, they have shareholders, directors, and management. Shareholders normally meet once a year in an annual general meeting. Directors are responsible for policy development, strategy, and oversight over management. These boards delegate responsibility or authority to the management as they normally meet on a quarterly basis. They are also the primary conveners of annual general meetings, AGM, as the management is responsible for the day-to-day management of the organization. After examining the various types of boards, the key question is, how do we constitute a competent board? The first step is developing a board selection criteria that outlines the process. This process defines key considerations for board member appointments, determines the required skill sets, experiences, and competencies, defines the term limit for board members, and agrees on the mode of appointment. There are things that we really need to be very keen on as we are selecting or as we identify potential board members. On this, we use the AAAKL criteria. Aptitude. We check whether they have the required skill sets, experiences, and competencies. Attitude. We look at their personal style, communication, credibility, body language, and behavior reactions. Altitude. On this, we look at their agility, strategic intent, and higher level of potential to do more for the institution, oversight capacity, and where they fit in the big picture of your organization. Known what are their networking capabilities, connections and relationships. Leadership. Lastly, we check on their character, achievements, and their general standing within the community. In terms of skill set, knowledge and achievement, the following are the things we look at in a potential board member: their professional, technical, and functional skills, their past experience in terms of the sectors they have served or worked in, their leadership maturity, breadth and depth of accountabilities, experiences and challenges they have experienced, their diversity perspectives, insights, level of exposure, and level of financial literacy. When vetting a potential board member based on their experiences, availability, and motivation, we employ the following matrix. We confirm their experience in boards and board committees, their capacity and commitment to board activities, and their availability and contributions to board's diversity. We check their motivation, passion, and knowledge in the sector or business of the organization, contributions and board dynamics, and attitude towards governance. On capacity and commitment assessment of a potential board member, there's need to consider the members' availability, contributions to the board's diversity, their trainings, current board service, and their attitude towards governance. When scouting for board members, we check the following aspects of their reputation and personal branding. We verify their personal stature, public image, visibility presence, integrity, credibility, and financial records. The big question is, what are they known for by the society and how are they perceived? Potential board members need to be vetted on the basis of relationships, networks, and connections they have formed with government, regulatory authorities and agencies, national and international professional bodies or associations, connections with current and past board members or shareholders, and connections with CEO and management that can have positive influence on the organization. Management of the selection process. Moving on to the next phase, we need to determine if the recruitment is an internal or external process. If the process is internal, then it will be management-led, but if it is external, we need to engage the services of a professional body, consultant, or recruitment firm. Terms of reference need to be developed, followed by an advertisement in local newspapers, professional networks, or headhunting of potential members. We finalize by conducting interviews, selecting of a suitable member, and communicating to them using appointment letters. Summary of key considerations when selecting a board member: academic qualifications, technical expertise, industrial/sector knowledge, experience, nationality, age, role, gender. In this entire process, there are certain do's and don'ts for existing members, and they are: 1 can participate in developing selection criteria. Depending on the agreed recruitment process, one can circulate the advertisement to potential board members. If appointed, a member can sit in the interview panel. Don'ts. A member should not try to influence the process. They should not canvass or lobby for preferred candidates. And they should not leak information to potential board members. 56 Board members' orientation or onboarding programs. An institution should have a structured board members' orientation program. A board orientation package should be developed, and it should contain information about the organization, the organization's strategy, the board's annual plans, and the roles and responsibilities of board members. Contents should be regularly updated, and this orientation should be done immediately after board members are appointed. The following are the roles and responsibilities of the governing board of directors, the primary functions of boards. Performance. Strategy formulation. They input to the strategy, mission, vision, and values of the organization. Policy formulation, they develop and implement the board charter and other relevant policies. Future focus, they provide strategic leadership to the organization. Conformance, they exercise accountability. They are responsible for the actions of the organization. They provide clear lines of responsibility and accountability in the organization. They ensure management is accountable to the board and they ensure the board is accountable to its shareholders. Monitoring and supervision. The board members are responsible for determining executive compensation. They ensure the law of compliance is adhered to, that is, deductions and remittance of statutory dues is conducted diligently. They have oversight over internal control systems. They review, evaluate and approve remuneration structures of the organization. They monitor and ensure compliance with applicable laws, and they take responsibility for meeting or addressing organization needs. Fraud, waste, abuse and safeguarding risk. According to the United States Government Accountability Office, GOA fraud is a type of illegal act involving the obtaining of something of value through willful misrepresentation. It is an intentional act of omission characterized by deceit, concealment, or violation of trust to obtain something of value such as money, services, property, or avoid payment or loss of services. Waste involves the taxpayers not receiving reasonable value for money in connection with any government-funded activities. Waste relates to mismanagement, inappropriate actions, and inadequate oversight. Abuse involves behavior that is deficient or improper when compared with behavior that a prudent person would consider reasonable and necessary business practice given the facts and circumstances. It may include misuse of authority or position for personal gain. Safeguarding risks can be referred to as the practice of implementing preventive, protection, and compliance measures for populations who may be at an increased risk for harm across an organization's operations to prevent harm, including but not limited to exploitation, abuse, and violence generally. Protection from sexual exploitation and abuse, PSEA, child safeguarding, and countering trafficking in persons, CTIP, are all key components of a unified safeguarding regime. Internal controls. These are processes effected by the board of directors, management and staff to provide assurance regarding achievement of set objectives. Emphasis is mostly focused on compliance with regulatory environment and award provisions, reporting that is reliable, timely, and transparent. This is done with an emphasis on effective mechanisms for internal and external stakeholders to provide feedback and report misconduct. Operations, efficacy, and effectiveness. Safeguarding of assets. Investigation and response. There should be a clear process in place for receiving, processing, and acting on reports related to fraud, waste, abuse, and safeguarding, risk management, and mitigation. How to report to USAID. Contact your AOS and AOR regarding any fraud, waste, abuse, and safeguarding risks. Report to the Office of Inspector General, OIG, which has the independent legal authority to investigate allegations of misconduct, mismanagement, or violations of law, rules, or regulations by employees or program participants, as well as fraud, waste, and abuse in USAID programs, including CSEATIP and child exploitation, abuse, and neglect. USAID OIG's hotline accepts reports or information related to alleged fraud, waste, abuse. The following are the roles of the chair: oversees induction of new board members, develops and adheres to annual board work plan, sets the agenda and tone of the meeting, maintains control of meeting proceedings, Ensures the board satisfies its duties and responsibilities. Ensures the board receives timely information to execute their mandate. Ensures board members have sufficient time for consultation and decision. Creates a conducive environment and gives all members an opportunity to contribute to the agenda. Encourages robust and constructive debate. Accommodates divergent views and facilitates resolution. Facilitates decision-making and steers the meeting toward consensus. Ensures decisions are understood and clearly recorded or documented. Constitutes committees and ensures their functionality. Handles internal disputes and conflicts of interest concerning individual board members. Ensures appropriate contact between the board and management. Serves as a model. The following are the roles and responsibilities of a board member. Understands the organization's business and keep themselves updated with sector development. Studies meeting agenda and board papers ahead of the meetings. Attends board meetings regularly, promptly, and contributes effectively. Works towards unanimously reaching a decision or resolution. Feels comfortable to raise dissenting opinions. Understands the board's collective responsibility for decisions and actions taken by the board. Maintains highest degree of care, skill, and diligence. Acts on best interest of the organization. Acts honestly at all times, avoid conflict of interest. Exercises independent judgment and objectivity and is open to other members' perspectives. Devotes sufficient time to board activities or organization. Promotes and protects the organization's image. Owes allegiance to the organization and not nominating or appointing authority. Owes the organization the duty to hold in confidence all information provided to the members. Role of the CEO or Executive Director. Upholds good governance and coordination. Prompt preparation of board papers. Prompt response of board members' requests for information. Provide regular, updated, and prompt communication on technical, financial, and administrative issues. Oversee execution of board decisions and policies and ensure desirable outcomes. Empowers staff to implement decisions and unleash their full potential. Ensure compliance on legal, regulatory, and government statutory requirements. As the secretary to the boards they write and circulate minutes. Role of the company secretary, especially in public sector institutions. Coordinating activities of the boards. Timely circulation of board papers, records, and maintains minutes and facilitates follow-up actions. Monitors climate of the meeting and advises the chairperson. Advises the board and management on governance matters. Management staff, understanding board requirements. Preparing board papers in consultation with the CEO or Executive Director. They call for action in the implementation of board decisions. Note: a company secretary should be a qualified secretary and fully conversant with standard meeting procedures. Liabilities of directors. Directors and board members are not personally liable for the contracts, actions, or omissions of the institutions they serve, except under the following circumstances: breach of fiduciary duty that causes organizations or institutions to suffer due to their actions. Liability in contracts where they do not have protection from liability. Therefore, they should carry out due diligence and act in the best interest of the organization or institution all the time. Seek appropriate authority before acting on a decision. Ensure there is liability insurance for directors and other members. Fiduciary duties of individual directors and liabilities under Companies Act 2025. Under fiduciary responsibility, a person or institution acts on behalf of another person, manages assets and acts on other people's interests. owes other entities the duties of good faith and trust. Fiduciary relationship is a bond and responsibilities are both ethical and legal. Act in the best interest of the principal, who can be a donor, the public or shareholders. Other important duties include: a person should establish laws that govern the institution. They should ask for evidence to check the level of compliance on code of ethics, internal policies and procedures. Duties and liabilities of individual directors or board members. Drive: what is the motivation? What do I expect from the board and other members? Content: diversity of perspectives. What value/content do I bring and add to the board? Presence: how do I appear in the board? Visibility, credibility, charisma, intelligence, leadership, and maturity. Acceptance: liability, trust, mutual respect, relationship, chemistry with others and engagement. Contributions: self-belief, participation, impact to the board or sector, commitment, self-accountability, capacity of the board, attendance, and self-discipline. Companies Act 2015. This law lays the foundation on which effective systems of corporate governance may be built by the organization. Some of the specific references are Section 144 Exercise of independent judgment, Section 145 Exercise of reasonable care, skill, and diligence. It cautions that one should act on general knowledge, skill, and experience, but be reasonable and objective at the same time. Section 146. Avoid conflict of interest with the institution or organization. Section 147. No benefit from third parties. It emphasizes on the duty to declare a conflict of interest in a proposed or existing transaction. Points to ponder. Are you aware of the Companies Act 2015? As a board member, are you aware of your fiduciary duties? Are you aware of material risks and their mitigations? Are external auditors or management letters objective? Is there a compliance officer in your institution or organization? Is there an internal audit function? Is there a risk management committee, and does it have clear terms of reference, both internal and external? Board committee structure, roles, and responsibilities. Board committees are small working units that are constituted by board members and senior management for purposes of supporting board work. Appointment of board committees is done by the chairman, and therefore they should not be members of committees. Board committees enable the board to make use of specialized expertise, and their work is guided by terms of reference. The size of the committee is 2 to 5 members depending. For a committee to be effective, it needs to have the following: have clear terms of reference, annual calendar of meetings signed off by the board. Committee members dedicate adequate time to do their business. They have appointed committee chairs. Submit or share their reports with the board during meetings through their chairs. Minutes are documented and maintained as records. Rules should allow for flexibility. Terms of reference provide for co-option of members with skills not available among the committee members. Board performance and evaluations. For strong and vibrant boards, directors have the following: annual work plan with clear indicators. Embrace a continuous learning culture. The key questions are: what have we done? What do we need to do to improve on performance? Why is evaluation necessary? Assess the value the board adds to the organization. Boards should be result-oriented, therefore should keep track of progress. Measure efficiency, effectiveness, impact, and outcomes. Cannot afford complacency, henceforth, there is need to keep looking for ways to improve performance. This is a good corporate governance best practice to fulfill a regulator's requirements. Stakeholders' requests, clarity of individual and collective responsibility. Encourage healthy balance, helps in team dynamics. Evaluation provides a broad feedback mechanism, improves team dynamics. For a proper evaluation of board performance, the following are necessary. Ensure evaluation tools are in place. The process should evaluate the chairperson and their role as a chair, in addition to the board as a whole, vis-à-vis their annual work plan. Individual board members and the CEO should also be evaluated on the Likert scale of 1-5. There are two types of evaluation. 1. Self-evaluation, which only looks inward. 2. 360 evaluation that identifies other stakeholders to evaluate the board and provide feedback of their assessment. Key considerations for board evaluation. Evaluation exercise must be objective. Scope of evaluation must be agreed on. Must be a board-driven process. Should be determined beforehand if it will be in-house or external. Results must be disseminated and action plan developed. RACI model for clarifying and defining roles and responsibilities, Session 6. Our main objective in this session is to understand how boards can use the RACI model to define levels of management, accountability, and responsibility. RACI matrix. It is a responsibility assignment matrix describing the participation in completing business process tasks. It is used for defining roles and responsibilities in cross-functional projects. R stand for responsible, A accountable, C contributing, and I informed. Below is RACI model participators diagram. Who is responsible? This is the person assigned to do the work to complete the task. The responsibility level is determined by accountable, and it's typically the project team. Who is accountable? This is the person who makes the final decision and is answerable for the correct completion of the deliverable or task. There must be only one accountable per function, and it's mostly the leadership or management. Who is consulted? This is the person who must be consulted before the action is taken. It is typically the subject matter expert with whom there is two-way communication. Who is informed? This is the person who must be informed that a decision or action has been taken. There is just one-way communication with them since they are outside the project. Mostly, it is the senior leadership of the organization. The following is the RACI organizational hierarchy triangle. Who is accountable? Who is responsible? Who is consulted? Who is informed? Pros and cons of RACI. Pros. Maintains clear and open communication with all stakeholders. Avoids overwhelming team members with tasks or unnecessary information. Avoids too many cooks offering input on any task. Helps stakeholders prepare for a project's future impact on their work. Cons. You might spend time unnecessarily creating the chart for simple projects. Roles are rigid and might not fully illustrate a team member's stake in a project. Cons. You might spend time unnecessarily creating the chart for simple projects. Roles are rigid and might not fully illustrate a team member's stake in a project. RACI matrix alternatives. RACI. This alternative to RACI uses the RACI model plus S for supportive. This is someone who participates in doing the work of a task by supporting the responsible parties. CARS. This model designates stakeholders as communicate. These are the consulted and informed parties. Approve. This is the decision maker. Responsible. This person does the work. Support. These parties support the responsible person in doing the work. RAS. This model simplifies CARS with just the responsible, approve, and support roles. It eliminates communication outside the project team, which would need to be accounted for another way in the project management method. D. RACI. This model includes these roles similar to RACI: drivers, the people who do the work; approvers, the decision makers; contributor, people who are consulted on the task; informed, people who are informed of the project's progress. CLAM. In this model, stakeholders are assigned these actions. Contribute, they are people who are consulted and who do the work. Approve, the decision makers. Monitor, people who are kept in the loop on a project's progress. Role of leaders in developing and actualizing of the organization's vision. Session 7. Leaders in organizations conduct the following roles. They provide guidance, lead others, inspire others, take action, provide direction, influence others, replicate succession, are vision bearers, are impact-oriented, build others, walk with people. Leaders also help communicate the vision and mission of the organization to employees, provide direction, and help employees identify the roles that fit best their skills and experiences. Encourage subordinates to act for the actualization of the organization's objectives. Develop employees' capacity and empowers them to align their contributions towards the organization's vision. Provide visionary leadership to the organization. Overall, they influence others towards one vision where everyone gets a chance to make a change. In summary, leadership is about goals and intended outcomes. Visionary leadership. Visionary leadership is inspiring people to work towards the future goals of an organization. A visionary leader enables others to clearly and vividly realize what the future holds and anticipate or foresee opportunities and obstacles. Visionary leadership is the ability to connect the dots between current trends, events, and interpret how the current might affect the future and realign your vision or goals. It also provides freedom to employees to determine the best path to actualize the vision, hence does not control employees. Attributes of visionary leadership. Resilience. A vision bearer should be able to hold high in the face of adversity in order to help the institution navigate tough times. Focus. Of visionary should direct attention and filter distractions by prioritizing based on the plan, since one cannot do everything at the same time. Vision. Of visionary should hold on to the mental picture of the future by maintaining clarity and engaging the employees with a compelling and tangible vision. Discipline. A vision bearer should ensure their actions as a leader impact on others positively. Collaborative. Visionary should work with others to actualize the vision by inspiring the team and key stakeholders to work together. Visionary leadership should inspire and motivate others to use their gifts, skills, and experiences to find innovative and creative solutions to problems. Also, it should provide a conducive and open environment where people can learn and trust each. Lastly, a visionary should keep articulating the vision to the team and stakeholders for action. Leading, managing, and governing for results. Model serves as a roadmap to guide you and your team to plan programs and actions exclusively, execute the plans, coordinate teams and resources, oversee implementation to uphold equity and accountability, institute and build a culture of transparent reporting using data for decision-making, strengthen the capacity of teams and participants to exercise and inspire leadership, identify challenges and develop response strategies, create a team with shared vision for accomplishing the plan. Apply leading and managing practices to improve teamwork and effectiveness. Use challenge model to overcome challenges to achieve measurable results. Align stakeholders around the challenges and mobilize resources to address them. When we are governing results, we look to cultivate accountability, engage stakeholders, set shared direction, and steward resources. 5 C's Results Model. The 5 C's represent clarity, capability, commitment, collaboration, and capacity. Clarity refers to creating a single vision, goal, and direction that can clearly be explained and communicated to others. The what and why must be very clear. Capability refers to what needs to be in place in regard to organization skills and experience, organization culture, team confidence and mindset, physical environment, infrastructure, and processes. There's also a need to understand how all those factors affect the results of your project. Commitment. There is a need to establish how committed is the team to the vision, strategy, objectives, and goals of the project. Leaders are expected to create a safe environment where commitment can be discussed and challenged. Collaboration. Motivation to influence collaboration with other like-minded actors is key. It is important to determine who could help achieve our goal, strategy, and vision, and who might get in the way or slow our progress. There is need to encourage leadership and cross-functional teams to work together. Capacity refers to a leader's view of the big picture to enable them make decisions about resources and planning. A good leader needs to identify required resources and skills that can be found elsewhere and explore other capacities externally. For example, from IPs, government, and stakeholders. The bottom line is the ability to determine what is required to make it happen. Thank you.